welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here. It's Smirking Interviews. It's Sunday night. It's time to talk Watchmen. We're on the penultimate episode of the series. It's episode 8. It's called The God Walks Into a Bar. Full spoilers if you haven't seen this episode. This is actually take number 2 because I forgot how much nudity is in this episode. I had to fast forward past all of it. In fact, just past all of it. This guy's very blessed. Good on you, my friend. Great genes. Ladies, he's I don't know if he's available, but anyway, this is his big episode. I believe his name is pronounced something along the lines of Yahya Abdul Mateen II. And as Dr. Manhattan arrives in VVN Day in Vietnam, and well, the main titles say it all. A guy walks into a bar, he sits next to Angela, well, waits for her to ask him to sit next to him if he can figure out why he's there, or why, if he can tell her why, that he knows why she's there, which is for the anniversary of her parents' death. And it begins the conversation that leads into their relationship, which leads into the everything that happened up until the moment that she busts his noggin open and takes out the memory eraser that brings him back. And so this is basically like a Cliff Notes. It's a pretty interesting way to do a flashback story. This actor is really, really good. We get to see more Ozzy, a plot that finally makes a lot of this stuff make sense. Anybody that was having like head-scratching moments like I was, like how are they going to tie this all together? That's pretty much what they do. They explain a lot. So I could go on and on about flipping back and forth in time, but I'm just not going to do it. I left the notes here just so that I could kind of keep track of things. So I like how she asks him, well, is this some kind of Zeus thing? Like, are you just some disguise, where you come down here to get laid? Pretty funny joke. I liked that. But where has he been for 20 years? Well, he hasn't been on Mars because that's correct what they said to Looking Glass, is that it's all fake. He's really been on Europa, moon of Jupiter, creating the paradise that Adrian Veidt is now at. But how did Adrian get there? Well, he asked, he volunteered to go. Like, he finds out that Dr. Manhattan made the place, and he's like, it's a paradise. It's the utopia you always wanted. You're asking me if you'd ever see it. Well, you will. If you want to go there, you can. So he sends him there. We find out that the caretakers are based on the two people that he met that took care of him and his father and a lot of other people in during World War II or the beginning of World War II. Jews fleeing Germany. It's where he saw sex for the first time. He experienced love for the first time. These people talk to him. It's really weird, actually, how they pull him aside and talk to him about it and then hand him a Bible. I think maybe that was their ulterior motive, was to spread Christianity in a way. I don't know, especially since they're Jews. It's weird. But they tell him to create something beautiful. And so after all is said and done, and after the events of Watchmen, he does. He goes to the moon of Jupiter and creates life as a god himself, which is, yeah, he's basically a god if you can do all that shit. So the two first people that he brings into existence are based on them, but they're servants. I don't know why he didn't make them with different personalities, like real and Adam and Eve. That could have been something like he made them. He's their God. They want to only worship him, right? He could have given them free will. Or is that beyond his capabilities? Is it just giving them higher brain functions, but he can't wire their brains to think on their own? Which was something that was puzzling to me, because after a while he gets bored and leaves. And he wants to be needed, I guess. And this is what brings him to Earth. Or at least that's what I took out of it. So why does he love her? There's this 10 years tragic ending. She keeps asking him all these reasons, like, that all kind of, you have to wait till the end of the episode for any of it to make sense. Like, this is where before I created egg. You find out he creates an egg in front of her. We could go back and forth like this all the time. Because of how he perceives time. Regina King, meanwhile, is loving all of this. She's eating it up. She's really great in these scenes, just against some guy across the table. But after all is said and done, you know, she confronts him in this fight that he says that they're going to have about what are you afraid of? You last experienced fear when you went into that tachyon particle accelerator and you vaporized yourself. So what do you have to be afraid of anymore? So he goes to Ozymandias's lair after she tells him to leave. It's been 24 years and ish later, and he's sitting in there and he's completely naked. Ladies, like I said, this guy, he's very genetically blessed. Good on you. I don't know why we say that. It's not like, we have a choice in these kind of things. You're just born how you're born, right? So Ozzy's been making it rain for rain squids to maintain peace. And, he's upset. He's frustrated. All this utopia has been, wasted. They keep making bombs. He doesn't understand it. And, Manhattan tries to tell him, like, well, it's paradoxical, but it makes him feel safe. Or, it's just, we make our own destructions, that kind of thing. Well, he tells Ozymandias that he's in love and that there's problems there. He's like, well, yeah, who would want to be romantically linked to a god? I mean, how can you process that as a regular person? And I felt like maybe he wanted to be mortal again, but it's really he just wants to have a device that makes him forget. But here's the thing, another thing, all right, this whole time, and I could be talking about this at the end, but if Manhattan can see everything, right? He knows all of this stuff that has happened and will happen and how he plays a part in it and whatever. He sees everything that's going to happen. So how does he not see what happens at the end? And okay, and if he obviously can, right? He obviously can see what happens. So whatever happens at the end of this episode, there's got to be a reason for it, right? He Otherwise, that's the fucking stupidest ending. This is like, a stupid ending otherwise. I like this show. But it's, there's going to be people that are going to be scratching their heads going, why did he let what happens happen to him? Unless there's a greater purpose behind it. You know what I mean? So if we already know that there's a greater purpose behind it, maybe he wants to die. Maybe he, whatever. But why would he want Keen to be able to become Dr. Manhattan himself? Because that's what he's trying to do. It's just some other guy who's trying now to be God. And good Lord, if that ever happened, I'd rather just check out, man. If some crazy cracker decided to make himself God, um, I don't know. But we find out that Ozzy made this device that would make him forget all these years ago when there was like plan A and plan B. Plan B was bomb. Plan A was blow himself up or make him forget his memories. And this is where he tells him about the place and he sends him there. But here's the thing about paradise and all that is paradise would end up being boring. Like a vacation is a vacation because you go for a while and you come home. Even if you uh, don't exactly like going home all the time, you know what I mean? Like it gets boring. It gets stale after a while. And even Adrian Veidt, who goes to this place and sees it for stays there for 10 years, after a while, you just want to go home where people actually need you, or at least you think they need you. And that's exactly what he says. I wrote that down and then he says the exact same thing. And when he comes back, right? When he comes back and she wakes him up and explains everything to him, he goes out under the water. He teleports the kids to their grandfather and he proceeds to tell her that right now I'm having a conversation with your grandfather back 10 years ago. So a conversation is happening in the present and 10 years ago at the same time. And he doesn't really want to hear it. Reeves doesn't really want to hear it. He's been living in Captain Metropolis's mansion that he left to him. And she asks him about how did you know that Judd had a Klan outfit in his closet? And he says he didn't. And Angela realizes, did I start all this? You know, you know what I mean? Like, because I asked this question, because we set this all up, the chicken or the egg, the paradox, and both happening right at the same time, the chicken and the egg, could this all have been avoided? And it's starting to make me wonder, yeah, could it all have been avoided? Because again, he says like the seventh cavalry is there. We can't stop them. There's nothing we can do. And it's like, well, what do you mean? You're Dr. Manhattan. You can just vaporize everybody. He can't. He clearly then the understanding that I have is he doesn't want it to. Whatever's going to happen, he wants to happen. Nothing has to happen that without his knowing about it. He's a god. If he didn't want this to happen, I'm going around in circles, I feel like. But this is when he says, I fell in love with you, because she's willing to defend herself, defend him from them, despite the odds being against her. And it is a pretty quick scene, and we actually get to see Dr. Manhattan vaporize some people. But then you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because he says it's all going to end in tragedy. And they're going to hit me with that thing, and they're going to teleport me, and then they're going to destroy me. So, I mean, I kind of feel like they've already told us the ending of the show, but it's more of a matter now of why. Why does Dr. Manhattan allow these people to take him and destroy him? Unless, and again, there's going to be some 11th hour twist in this, because clearly with the post-credit scene with Ozzy finding the horseshoe in the cake and him being excited should mean that he's coming back to Earth at some point in the finale. Now, whether that's to help us or not, there is a bomb. Maybe he can blow up Keen. I don't know. But I really wish that I had more intense things to say about this. There's really nothing offensive about it unless you find full frontal male nudity offensive. It's just a really interesting way to tell a flashback story, to tie all the loose ends together so that when we go into the finale, it doesn't even tie all the loose ends together because we don't know what the clock is doing. We don't know what Mrs. True is really about. There's so many things still happening that will have to be answered next week. But this does, dot some I's and cross some T's. It's nice to see Dr. Manhattan, a Watchmen character, in this after all this time and understanding. And they do get the character right. But again, like I said, if he knows everything that's going to happen, then hopefully there's a good explanation for why he lets himself get teleported out of there, and act like it's a surprise, kind of. I don't know. So anyway, that's it for this review, really. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. And I do want to say this. Thank you all so much who've been watching this and watching and subscribing to my channel because of this. Like I said, I wish I had more to say. I did have all these notes. I have all these notes, but it just felt like I was going around in circles with time going backwards and forwards, and all of it kind of just leading up to, like, let's just talk about the end, like, let's just get to it. And really, this penultimate episode just kind of leaves you just wanting this story to finish so that we can put it all to bed. There was no agenda. I was worried there were going to be some agendas in this episode, but there aren't. So anyway, this is Robin Smirking and Review saying we'll be back next week for the finale. So hopefully you guys show up. I'll be here. So have a great night, and we'll see you next Sunday. Don't forget, tomorrow night is His Dark Materials that we review as well. And we're also going to be doing Avenue B with Hugh Laurie when that comes out, and The Outsider with Jason Bateman and Ben Mendelsohn. We're going to be doing that show too. And there's also going to be a review for Silicon Valley's final season as well. So have a great night, and we'll see you next week.